Welcome to Thoughtful Tomes, the podcast where we dive deep into transformative ideas from remarkable books that inspire personal growth, enhance our understanding of ourselves, and broaden our perspectives on the world. Today, we embark on an enlightening journey through Dr. Stephen C. Hayes' groundbreaking book, Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. This influential work introduces us to acceptance and commitment therapy, AT, a revolutionary approach that shifts the way we relate to our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. ACT offers a profound invitation to break free from the limitations of the mind and live a life of meaning, authenticity, and alignment with our deepest values. In this episode, we'll unpack powerful concepts that resonate with anyone who has ever found themselves caught in the relentless cycle of overthinking, overwhelmed by fear, or burdened by self-doubt. We'll explore how our natural instinct to avoid or suppress discomfort often intensifies our emotional suffering, creating a paradox where the more we fight against our thoughts, the more power they hold over us. Through the lens of T, we learn to step away from this internal struggle, shifting from a mindset of control to one of acceptance and mindfulness. Instead of attempting to eradicate pain, we're guided to create space for it, embracing discomfort as a part of the human experience so that we can turn our focus toward what truly matters. As we journey through these transformative tools, we'll uncover practical strategies for breaking free from the mental traps that keep us stuck in cycles of anxiety, worry, and inaction. By leaning into our values, we can move forward with greater resilience, clarity, and purpose. ACT empowers us to navigate life's challenges with an open heart and a steady mind, fostering the freedom to make intentional choices and live authentically, no matter the circumstances. In this episode, you'll gain insights into how to cultivate psychological flexibility and how to actively live in alignment with your core values, all while learning to face life's inevitable discomforts with courage and grace. Join us for a conversation that will leave you with the tools and mindset needed to create a life of greater meaning, freedom, and fulfillment. The double-edged sword of human thinking. Let's explore one of the most defining aspects of humanity, our extraordinary ability for thought, imagination, and self-reflection. Dr. Stephen Hayes argues that our advanced use of language, the capacity to name, categorize, and assign meaning, is not just what distinguishes us from other species, but also shapes the entire lens through which we experience the world. This cognitive power enables us to create civilizations, innovate in profound ways, and appreciate beauty in forms both seen and unseen. Yet with such remarkable potential comes an inherent cost: the ability to mentally relive our past and project our fears and anxieties onto the future. This cognitive gift, while essential for our survival and growth, can also entrap us in cycles of suffering. To illustrate this, imagine a zebra narrowly escaping a predator. Once the immediate danger has passed, the zebra instinctively returns to grazing, unaffected by lingering anxiety or self-recrimination. It doesn't spiral into thoughts like, what if the lion returns? Could I have outrun it? In contrast, humans, blessed with the ability to recall the past and imagine the future, often carry mental burdens far beyond the present moment. We have a unique capacity to transform fleeting experiences, both joyous and painful, into enduring narratives, sometimes clinging to these stories in ways that exacerbate our emotional pain. This remarkable cognitive ability, however, is a double-edged sword. While it can empower us to learn from our mistakes, anticipate future challenges, and cultivate deep empathy for others, it also leaves us vulnerable to over-identifying with our thoughts. When we become overly entangled in the mental stories we tell ourselves, stories that often include regret, guilt, or fear, we can begin to live in these narratives rather than in the present moment. Our attachment to these mental constructs can prevent us from fully experiencing the richness of life unfolding right before us. This is where the revolutionary nature of acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, becomes clear. By helping us recognize the dual nature of our minds, ACT encourages a profound shift in how we relate to our thoughts. Rather than viewing our mental chatter as a defining feature of who we are, AC teaches us to hold our thoughts lightly, to observe them without judgment, and to separate our sense of self from the stories that can lead us astray. Through this process, we can learn to be present, to engage with life more fully, and to navigate the complexities of our inner world with greater clarity and intention. The futility of thought control. Let's take a moment to reflect on a deeply ingrained, yet often counterproductive instinct that many of us share: our tendency to resist, fight, or suppress painful thoughts and emotions. It's a reflexive reaction. We instinctively believe that if something uncomfortable arises, the best course of action is to banish it from our minds. I shouldn't feel this way. I need to stop thinking about it, we might tell ourselves. It seems like a reasonable approach. If a thought or feeling is unpleasant, why not push it aside or try to control it? But as Dr. Hayes points out, this strategy, though seemingly logical, often backfires, compounding our distress rather than alleviating it. It's like trying to escape quicksand by thrashing about. Every attempt to struggle only pulls us deeper into the very thing we are trying to avoid. But why does this happen? Why do we find ourselves stuck in such a futile mental cycle? The reason is deceptively simple. When we resist negative thoughts or feelings, we inadvertently empower them. In our efforts to avoid discomfort, we focus all our attention on it, unintentionally amplifying its power over us. Take, for instance, the anxiety we might feel before a big presentation. If you tell yourself, "Stop feeling anxious," you're not just trying to rid yourself of anxiety, you're drawing more attention to it. By trying to suppress the emotion, you are inadvertently giving it more weight, making it feel even more pervasive and inescapable. This often leads to what's called meta-anxiety, the anxiety about being anxious. Now, instead of simply being nervous about the presentation, you become consumed by the fear of feeling anxious, which only intensifies your distress. This paradoxical effect creates a cycle that feels increasingly impossible to break. The more we fight our inner experiences, the more they grip us, pulling us into a state of heightened awareness and worry. This internal tug of war doesn't resolve the issue. Rather, it deepens our entanglement with it. What we resist persists, growing more intrusive and distressing with every effort to suppress it. In this way, avoidance becomes entanglement, and suppression often fuels the very emotional states we wish to eliminate. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, offers a radically different perspective on this pattern. Instead of viewing our negative thoughts and emotions as enemies to be defeated, ACT invites us to approach them with a spirit of acceptance. This doesn't mean resigning ourselves to suffering or passively giving up. It means acknowledging our feelings without allowing them to define our actions. ACT encourages us to simply notice and observe our inner experiences, to give them space to exist without getting caught in the web of judgment, resistance, or self-criticism. By shifting from a mindset of avoidance to one of acceptance, we create the opportunity to interact with our thoughts and emotions in a way that is less destructive and more compassionate. We free ourselves from the exhausting and futile cycle of resistance, opening the door to greater peace, resilience, and personal agency. A new way forward: acceptance and commitment therapy. Acceptance and commitment therapy introduces a powerful and transformative way of engaging with the complexity of our inner worlds. Rather than promoting the elimination of pain or attempting to control every fleeting thought, it challenges us to shift the way we relate to these experiences. At the heart of this approach is a profound insight. Pain is an inescapable part of life, but suffering, the intense emotional turmoil we often experience, comes not from the pain itself, but from our resistance to it. This simple yet transformative distinction reveals a liberating truth. While we cannot avoid pain, we do have the power to choose how we respond to it. Our reaction to pain can either trap us in suffering or become the catalyst for resilience, growth, and deeper connection with ourselves and the world. One of the foundational principles of ACT is cognitive diffusion, a practice that invites us to step back and observe our thoughts without becoming entangled in them. This technique helps us to disengage from the automatic, often unhelpful narratives our minds create. For example, when we have the thought, "I'm a failure," cognitive diffusion encourages us to recognize it as just a thought. I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I'm a failure, rather than internalizing it as an unchangeable truth. This subtle shift may seem small, but it has a profound impact on how we experience our inner lives. By creating distance between ourselves and our thoughts, we can approach them with curiosity and openness rather than identifying with them as defining parts of our identity. This simple reframing allows us to observe our mental patterns with greater objectivity and less emotional charge. The practice of cognitive diffusion is not just about distancing ourselves from negative thoughts. It's about developing a deeper psychological flexibility. This flexibility is crucial because it empowers us to hold space for uncomfortable emotions and thoughts without allowing them to hijack our behavior. AC teaches us that it's not about suppressing or avoiding pain, but about developing the strength to feel those emotions and thoughts while still making choices aligned with our values. When we stop resisting what we feel, we can act from a place of intention rather than being driven by reactive, automatic thoughts or feelings. This allows us to engage in life with a renewed sense of clarity, purpose, and resilience. This shift from attempting to control our internal experience to accepting it opens up a world of possibility. Rather than draining our energy in the futile attempt to eliminate discomfort, ACT encourages us to reclaim that energy and use it to build a life that reflects what matters most to us. In doing so, we transform our relationship with pain, not as something to avoid or fight, but as something we can move through with grace and presence. Through this approach, we begin to see that our struggles are not just obstacles, but opportunities for growth and meaningful action. Practical exercises for mental detachment, cultivating psychological flexibility. Now let's take a deeper look at some practical yet profound exercises that can help us integrate the transformative principles of acceptance and commitment therapy into our daily lives. These exercises, introduced by Dr. Stephen Hayes, are not about trying to rid ourselves of discomfort or pushing difficult emotions aside. Instead, they provide us with tools to change our relationship with our thoughts, allowing us to coexist with discomfort in ways that enhance clarity, compassion, and resilience. These practices foster psychological flexibility, which is the capacity to respond to life's challenges with a sense of openness and purpose, even in the face of adversity. Let's dive into how we can begin to cultivate this flexibility in small, actionable steps. 1. Visualization, the stream of thoughts. Visualize your thoughts as leaves drifting down a stream, gently carried by the current. Each leaf represents a different thought, whether it's one of hope, fear, joy, or frustration, passing by without attachment. Some may float by quickly, while others linger a little longer, but all are moving, flowing, and ultimately fading away. This exercise underscores a critical realization. Our thoughts are fleeting and ever-changing, not permanent fixtures. They are not the essence of who we are, nor do they define our actions or identity. By practicing this exercise regularly, we learn to let our thoughts come and go without the need to cling to them or push them away. Over time, this practice frees up mental space, allowing us to focus on the things that truly matter: our values, our relationships, and our actions. It's a gentle reminder that we do not have to be enslaved by our thoughts, but rather, we can observe them with curiosity, letting them pass like leaves on a stream. 2. Perspective shifting, the observer's lens. Imagine stepping back and viewing your life through the lens of an objective camera mounted on the wall. The camera watches silently, recording your actions, emotions, and interactions without judgment. There is no attachment to any single moment. It simply observes what is happening from a place of detachment and clarity. This exercise invites us to view our experiences as an outside observer, which allows us to gain perspective on situations that might otherwise feel overwhelming or charged with emotion. When we detach from our immediate reactions and simply observe our thoughts and feelings, we can better understand the bigger picture. We begin to realize that we are not defined by any single emotion or event in our lives. We are the witness to our own journey, capable of reflecting with compassion and understanding, rather than being caught up in the emotional intensity of the moment. This perspective shift empowers us to make decisions from a place of calm, helping us respond to life's challenges with more intention and grace. 3. Compassionate acceptance, holding pain gently. Perhaps one of the most profound exercises in ACT is learning how to approach pain, not with resistance, judgment, or fear, but with compassion. Imagine a moment when pain arises, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological, and instead of reacting with frustration, you visualize yourself gently holding that pain as if it were something delicate, like a fragile flower or a crying child. Dr. Hayes suggests that we treat our pain with care, as though it were a part of us that needs nurturing, not rejection. By responding to our pain with this tender acceptance, we shift the way we experience it. Pain becomes a temporary, manageable experience that we hold with tenderness, rather than something to be avoided or battled against. This compassionate approach doesn't make the pain go away, but it softens its edges, allowing us to engage with it in a more balanced way. It's a reminder that suffering is part of the human experience, and by holding it with gentleness, we create space for healing, growth, and a deeper connection to our true selves. Through compassionate acceptance, we learn to move through pain with more ease, embracing it as part of our growth rather than a barrier to it. Each of these exercises is a pathway toward greater psychological flexibility. They encourage us to step out of habitual patterns of resistance and reactivity and instead embrace the richness of our inner experiences with awareness, openness, and care. By practicing these techniques, we begin to untangle ourselves from the mental traps that often keep us stuck in cycles of fear, regret, and self-doubt. Over time, these exercises help us to build the resilience and clarity needed to face life's challenges with greater ease and purpose, grounded in the present moment and aligned with our deepest values. Ultimately, they empower us to live with more intention, navigate difficulties with courage, and foster a deeper connection to the life we truly want to create. Breaking free from cognitive fusion. A central theme in Dr. Stephen Hayes' work is the concept of cognitive fusion, a psychological phenomenon in which we become so entangled with our thoughts that we begin to treat them as absolute truths. This fusion leads us to adopt our thoughts as unchangeable realities, and in doing so, we often lose touch with the distinction between our internal world and the external world around us. The impact of cognitive fusion is profound because it limits our ability to respond with flexibility and intentionality. Instead, we react based on beliefs that are rooted in our mental narratives, not the facts of the situation. To understand this concept more deeply, let's explore a seemingly trivial but surprisingly powerful example: the way we perceive saliva. In the context of our mouths, saliva plays a beneficial role, aiding in digestion and maintaining oral health. However, as soon as it leaves the mouth, say when it drips or when we see someone else's, it suddenly becomes repulsive in our minds, even though nothing about its physical properties has changed. What we are seeing is not a shift in the saliva itself, but in our perception, and more importantly, our judgment of it. This is a clear demonstration of cognitive fusion at work. Our thoughts about saliva, influenced by societal and personal conditioning, transform it into something undesirable, when in fact it is neutral by nature. This example highlights the way our minds can distort reality based on thoughts, creating layers of unnecessary discomfort where there need not be any. This tendency to fuse with thoughts is not limited to seemingly neutral phenomena like saliva, but extends to our most deeply ingrained beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. We may come to accept thoughts such as, "I am unworthy of success," "I'm not capable," or "I will never be loved," as undeniable facts, when in truth, these are simply mental events, temporary, changeable, and often disconnected from reality. When we become fused with these thoughts, they no longer feel like just thoughts. They feel like the essence of who we are. This cognitive fusion binds us to negative self-concepts, and as a result, it can severely restrict our actions, relationships, and overall potential. But the real power comes when we recognize this fusion for what it is: a mental construct. When we realize that thoughts are not the same as facts, we can begin to challenge the automatic reflexes that arise from them. Consider the question: are you truly unworthy, or are you simply experiencing a thought that doesn't define you? By stepping back and observing our thoughts from a place of awareness, we start to separate ourselves from them. We see them as transient mental events, not as unchangeable truths. This detachment creates space for deeper reflection, allowing us to question the validity of our thoughts and explore alternatives that are more aligned with our authentic selves. Breaking free from cognitive fusion means stepping into a more liberated way of thinking and being. It doesn't require eradicating negative thoughts or fighting them. Rather, it involves acknowledging their presence and then making a conscious choice to not let them dictate our lives. This process allows us to reclaim our autonomy, giving us the freedom to act from a place of conscious intention rather than automatic, fear-based responses. When we disentangle ourselves from the grip of rigid mental narratives, we create room for growth, healing, and transformation. We can redefine who we are, not based on the fleeting and often distorted thoughts in our minds, but from a place of clarity, authenticity, and aligned action. Ultimately, this mental flexibility enables us to move through life with greater freedom, joy, and purpose. Living a values-driven life. At its core, get out of your mind and into your life isn't just about minimizing emotional pain or managing fleeting moments of discomfort. It's a transformative guide for creating a life that's rich with meaning, purpose, and intention, even in the face of life's inevitable struggles. One of the most profound and powerful lessons in Dr. Stephen Hayes' work is the emphasis on living in alignment with our core values, those fundamental beliefs and principles that define what is most important to us. AC, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, teaches us that psychological well-being isn't found in the avoidance of discomfort, but in the conscious choice to engage with life fully, embracing our challenges while taking actions that align with our deeper sense of purpose. This approach challenges the common notion that emotional pain must be avoided at all costs. Instead, ACT invites us to recognize that pain and discomfort are natural parts of life, and rather than running from them, we can learn to live with them. In fact, the very presence of discomfort can highlight the depth of our commitment to living according to our values. For example, imagine that connection is a core value of yours. You might experience anxiety when considering reaching out to a friend, yet you decide to follow through with the call or meet up. Understanding that the temporary discomfort of anxiety is a small price to pay for the greater, enduring value of connection. In this instance, your willingness to act in accordance with your values, despite the discomfort, becomes a powerful reaffirmation of what truly matters to you: relationships, support, shared experiences, and mutual joy. This is where the true power of values-driven living emerges. Our values are not fleeting. They are deep, enduring anchors that guide us through the ebb and flow of life's challenges. On the other hand, emotions, such as fear, doubt, or anxiety, are transient. They come and go, often driven by circumstances or internal reactions to the unknown. When we allow values, not emotions, to steer our decisions, we break free from the paralyzing grip of momentary fears and uncertainties. This shift enables us to move toward a life that isn't just dictated by reactionary impulses, but one that is infused with clear direction, authenticity, and a sense of meaning that transcends our immediate emotional states. Living a values-driven life doesn't require us to eliminate fear or discomfort. It asks us to expand our capacity to hold space for those emotions while still acting in ways that honor our deepest commitments. The process is less about suppressing negative emotions and more about expanding our tolerance for discomfort in service of something much greater: the fulfillment that comes from living a life true to our values. Fear may still arise. It may even be a constant companion along the way. But rather than letting it decide our actions, we choose to acknowledge it, experience it, and move forward in alignment with what matters most to us. In practice, this means making intentional, courageous choices that reflect our values, even when the path is uncomfortable or uncertain. Over time, these choices build a life that feels deeply authentic, where we are no longer passive recipients of life's circumstances, but active participants in creating the life we want to live. As we consistently take actions rooted in our values, we shape a reality that is fulfilling on a profound level, one where external events and fleeting emotions don't define us. Instead, we become the architects of our own lives, living with intention, clarity, and purpose, no matter what challenges arise along the way. Dr. Hayes' work serves as a profound and liberating reminder that we don't have to be imprisoned by our own thoughts and emotions. It invites us to step back and adopt a new way of engaging with our internal experiences, not as truths we must follow blindly, but as passing phenomena that we can observe with curiosity and compassion. This shift in perspective allows us to regain our agency and create a life that feels not only freer, but more authentic, rich in meaning, and deeply aligned with what truly matters to us. Through the practice of acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, we learn that we don't have to be victims of our minds, constantly reacting to every fear, worry, or impulse that arises. Instead, we can become active participants in shaping our experience, choosing how to respond to our thoughts rather than being swept away by them. The next time you find yourself trapped in a seemingly endless loop of worry, self-doubt, or judgment, pause and take a step back. Recognize that your mind, as powerful as it is simply doing what it has evolved to do: analyzing, protecting, and predicting. These mental patterns aren't inherently harmful. They're part of our survival instincts. But it's equally important to remember that while our thoughts may appear to be facts, they are not the sum of who we are. We have the ability to decide how much power we give to them. We are not simply the thinkers of our thoughts. We are the observers of them. This distinction allows us to reclaim our agency. It means we are the creators of our experience, capable of shifting direction even when the mental landscape feels overwhelming or chaotic. In essence, this work teaches us the profound art of choosing a different path, one that honors our deepest values, rather than being dictated by transient emotions or automatic mental reactions. Instead of being carried away by fear or self-criticism, we can align our actions with the things that truly matter: authenticity, connection, growth, and purpose. This is the power of mindfulness and acceptance, tools that enable us to live more intentionally with greater clarity and freedom. I want to thank you for joining me on this exploration of Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life. If today's episode resonated with you, please consider subscribing to Thoughtful Tomes and sharing this episode with someone who may benefit from learning how to step out of their mental patterns and embrace a more values-driven way of living. We would also love to hear from you. Follow us on social media or send us your thoughts and book recommendations. Your feedback is what helps us grow, deepen our understanding, and continue meaningful conversations that make a difference. Until next time, remember to live thoughtfully, one book and one insight at a time.